Hey, folks, this is the man with the pinky ring and the New York thing. Forget about it, Bad Brad Berkwitt. And you're watching the Bad Brad Berkwitt Show on the Ringside Report web TV channel. Now, make sure you hit that button, whatever corner it's in, and subscribe. Leave your comments below. Folks, you've been waiting for it. I've been waiting for it. We have a very, very special guest today on the show. Now, she is the author of the hit book, Too Much and Never Enough. She is the niece of the President of the United States, Donald John Trump. And this is Mary L. Trump. And I want to bring her on now and welcome her to the show. Hello. Oh, hold on one second. Let me log out of this. Bear with me. All right. Oh. Okay, I'm back.
Hi.
Hey, man, how you doing? Good afternoon.
Hanging in. How are you?
I'm doing fine. This Zoom thing, like I've been trading messages. When we were kids, we were like, I would love to see somebody on the other end of this phone. Now we're seeing them in real time. It's amazing, huh?
Yeah, now I'm just sort of like, can we just please get on the phone?
I know, that's right. Hey, I want to start out like this on a little bit of humor if we can.
Sure.
I got a text from someone that you know very well, and her name is Nemo.
Nemo?
And Nemo said that she wanted camera time on this show. Now,
I'm trying to cut down on her screen time. So I'm a little upset she found a device with which to text you.
you tell everybody who Nemo is because they're not going to know what the joke is.
Nemo is my leopard gecko who was very sad. I don't remember what show I was on, but of course I told her that I was going to be on TV and her tank was going to be in the background, but she misunderstood because she sat in the wrong corner. So she was off camera the whole time.
Right.
And when we played back the video, she was devastated. So I'm actually quite impressed that she texted you.
Sure. And I saw it on your Twitter feed. I got a big kick out. I saw her, I guess, in the aquarium or the tank or whatever you call it.
Wow. That's great. Sadly, I am not where Nemo is, so she's going to have to wait for her debut.
Well, you're obviously an animal lover because you got her. You got the cat. I forget the cat's name, though. I don't want to miss it.
Lyndon.
Okay. And you have a cockatoo or a parrot?
African gray. I'll make sure he didn't hear you say that. He'd be very offended.
Okay.
Yes, I have a 24-year-old African gray who is going to outlive me. So.
Wow. Just flies around the house?
Yes, he does.
Is he going to fly into the shot?
He might. If he gets jealous, we will.
I had to put up our Havanese. His name is Santino Corleone after the Godfather, after James. He was barking because he wanted camera time because he's used to us shooting in the studio. But because of COVID-19, that's not happening anytime soon.
Right.
So, again, I want to welcome you to the show. Before we get into any questions or anything like that, I just want you to know that there's a lot of people out here. I don't know if you're familiar with what they call on Twitter the resistors.
Yeah, of course.
The resistance. Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many people that have DM'd me, text me, call me, email me when they saw the presser come out. There's a lot of people out here that are really, really fond of you and have a lot of respect for you. And I want you to know that because I know it's not easy being out there and putting yourself out there like you have. I mean, you're like on a whirlwind tour doing shows. I told you, AOL, I logged on yesterday. You were the story. The niece of, it was like explosive headlines.
Oh, so, man.
I want you to know there's a lot of people out here that adore you and respect you.
That means a lot to me, especially since, as wild as it's been, I'm still like everybody else. I'm still home. So it's not like I'm connecting with people in real time or in real life. So it can get a little, as with everybody, a little isolating, a little lonely. So it's really nice to hear that because, it keeps me going. It's hard to know if it's making a difference when, I get off of a an interview and I'm sitting on my couch.
Right. No, it's
So,
making a difference. I mean, when I push this out, I've had more people retweet this thing, and uh, people such as yourself that your timeline is full of not just stuff about Donald, but about civil rights, and I mean they follow you, and your voice is powerful. It's not just because of the number of followers you have; it's because the authenticity of your voice, and that you took your platform, which I admire and respect, and I try to do that with mine as well, and speak out because you don't have to do it. You're not required to do it,
right.
but you do it. You put yourself out there. You put your name out there. You put your what's the word, anonymity or whatever it is,
Yeah.
out there with your beliefs. And I respect that people such as yourself, Patricia Arquette, Nancy Sinatra, and
Yep.
the list goes on and on and on. And I have immense respect for you ladies that do it, and not the ladies and gentlemen, because Robert De Niro, who I
Yeah.
adore, he really put himself out there. He went from being quoted from movie lines and being an iconic actor to a mutt, a dog, or this and that, because he used his platform to speak his mind, but
That's
you're
right.
not allowed to do that. But okay.
No, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you because, I feel the same way. I saw your book review, and you just tell it like it is, and you don't pull punches. I should be careful of like telling it like it is because for some bizarre reason that's what people like about Donald, which yeah, he tells it like it is, like a racist, misogynistic,
Oh,
or horrible human being. But you know what I'm saying? Like you're straightforward, you don't pull punches. And, I just thought it would be a really interesting conversation. Because that should be what it's about, right? Like, if you have the chance to make a difference or to speak to people in a particular way, it's got to be about stuff that matters, right? Like what's more important in this country than racism, and after that economic inequality, right? So yes, absolutely, it's about getting rid of Donald, but it's also about getting rid of the system as it's currently constituted.
yes.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance, by the way, before we go into the questions and the talking points? All right. Did you get? I know you're busy. Did you get a chance to watch my video that I sent you, my dad's?
I didn't. I feel terrible
Okay,
that
that's
I
okay.
haven't,
That's okay. I
but
guarantee you, when you see it, you'll be hitting me back. It's powerful.
yeah, of course I will. It's been
Yeah,
a
that's fine. Because
crazy,
what you
yeah.
just said, he talked about on June 2nd, 1977, on NBC Nightly News.
Oh, wow.
Actually used that clip. Have you ever seen the movie Milk that Sean Penn won the Oscar for?
Yep. Yep.
They used my dad's footage. I got
Oh, wow.
contacted by them. I didn't even know he did this piece on NBC Nightly News. I was only 9 years old when he did it. We lived on Miami Beach back then, even though I'm a former New Yorker. And they used it in the movie, and he talked about racism. And at that time, he was fighting against Anita Bryant, which I know you're
Yep.
well aware of. So
No, yeah, we've spoken about that. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, let's do this. I want to put out, when I bring up something, if I'm not right and it's not factually correct, because we don't deal on this show in alternative facts like Kellyanne Conway still does, even though she left on the 31st, she's
Yeah.
still running her mouth.
Yeah, she is.
So we're not going to give her too much time. But if I get something wrong, not be shy to correct me. I'm no problem at all.
Yes, same here.
Factual.
Same here.
All right. What I want to start out with, you've been asked many, many times on why you didn't come forward when he was running all that. I don't care about that. I care about it, but you've addressed it a million times over.
Right.
So what I want to start out with, some book questions. But instead of asking you that, I want to ask you, for your own self, putting the book out, how did it help your mind, body, and soul by putting this book out?
Wow. That's a really good question. I'm not entirely sure. It's, everything got complicated by COVID. So, I actually finished writing the book while I was in quarantine.
Okay.
And, being in New York, it was at the very beginning of things, and it was a living nightmare for everybody here. So, I can't even say that it was cathartic in any way. And it was a very difficult book to write. So, physically, in terms of my mind, maybe not great, but again, is that COVID? Is that the book? Who knows? But in terms of feeling like it's landed in a way that's infinitely better than I could possibly have imagined. feeling like whatever happens, that at least in this moment, it's making a difference. Like that's helping me tremendously. And also just not, there's no way to know when you write a book how it's going to be received. And with this particular kind of book in this particular time, there was no way to know if anybody was going to care or if it would resonate. So knowing, as you and I do, and as probably most of your listeners do, that this is literally the most consequential election in the history of the planet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really does me good to know that it seems to be helping, even if it doesn't change anything in the long run, which hopefully it will help do if we keep piling on, at least it's helping people kind of grapple with things.
Okay. You're doing research on you. Your mom, Linda, correct?
Yep.
Passed away, I believe, in 2001.
No, oddly enough, that's another Linda.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's so weird. I was doing some research myself and I found that obituary, same name, same biography, but not, this person died in California or something. And no, my mother lives in Douglaston, Queens. So.
Oops, her mom is still alive. I'm glad to hear it. But see, you jump on me because I got a fact one because it's the same.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
No, it was so weird because like you're not the first person who thought my mother had died in 2009.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll still ask my question, even though it's tied with your mom being passed on. But I'm glad, Mom, that you're still with us. And you answer this, it's your answer. And if I hit on something that's a little too personal, that's fine.
Yep.
But correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly in the book, there was a part where Donald was being a jag-off at the table with your dad, I think, and your mom had your mom wasn't really too outspoken, but this particular day, if I recall correctly in the book, she basically boom on the table and was like, "This is enough."
Yep.
I remember what he was saying about him. I don't know if it was about when he was a pilot or I remember all of that, but she had it. I don't even know. I can't remember if she kicked him out or what she did. Can you elaborate on the story just a little, and then I'll ask you the question.
Yeah, no, it's actually, I'm happy you asked that because it, in my view, it was one of the pivotal moments in my dad's life that helps explain a lot. They were living in Marblehead at the time. My dad, my mom, and my brother. My father was a pilot. He was flying for TWA, and he had the Logan Airport in Boston to LAX route. And, this was something he had done entirely on his own without the support of anybody in his family. And his little brothers, because Donald's 7.5 years younger, Rob's 9 years younger. So his little brothers were coming. And the assumption was, I think, that my dad was going to show them what his life was like and how cool it all was as a professional pilot. He lived on a harbor. He had a little boat, and it just like from the second they got there, it wasn't going particularly well. And at dinner, it became really clear that the reason Donald had come, and he had just graduated from high school, so he's a kid still. My dad's a professional man with a family, and Donald, it became clear, was there to give a message. And the message was, Freddie, Dad is embarrassed by you. He thinks that, you're a glorified bus driver. So you should grow up and get serious about your life, because as far as my grandfather was concerned, the only thing that was serious was being in real estate or something. And being a professional pilot at the dawn of the jet age, by the way, he looked down upon that. So because nobody in my family cared and because nobody in my family supported him, they did not know just how hard it is to become a professional pilot back then. Because my dad went from flying, first of all, he got his pilot's license, private and professional, by himself in college. Wow. So he wasn't trained in the military. He was one of, I think, 2 other people in his class in TWA who had not been trained in the military. Everybody else, Air Force, Army, what have you. So that in itself was a huge accomplishment. Plus, I don't know if you've ever been in the cockpit of a 707.
Actually, during the Gulf War, I have been.
Okay, so he goes from flying prop planes to flying jets. And I've seen pictures of cockpits of 7, and it makes my head explode because it's overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
So my mom was just like, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how hard he worked. You don't know how good he is. And according to friends of mine who to whom I've spoken about my dad, they said he was an absolutely exceptional pilot. Whether he was flying a seaplane or a 707, there was nobody better.
Okay.
So it essentially, it turned into this awful fight. And I think it was the first night the boys had gotten there, and they left the next morning, and that was it.
Okay.
And like they never went on a plane with him, nothing.
So the tie into that is, has your mom during the campaign, has she spoken out about Donald at all?
We all believed that during the campaign, it wouldn't have made.
No, I mean now.
Oh, now. I don't think she needs to. First of all, she and my dad got divorced when I was 5. So anything that she knows, I know, and it just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it's the same reason that I didn't before the last election. Nobody would have listened to anything I said. I would have just been this disgruntled, revengeful person, with no proof of anything.
Was it semi-seen? Was that his Twitter? What was it? What was it he said? Semi-seen? How he
Yes, seldom seen.
Seldom seen. I knew there was an S. Seldom seen. Okay, whatever. Okay, Donald. Him and his Twitter page. But the Donald thing, you always call him Donald, which obviously is on purpose. But I mean, I know you're not gonna. There's nothing to be affectionate about. There's no secret how he's been. But not that you got to call him President Trump, because I don't.
No, nobody should.
Oh, delete that out. But when you say Donald, it's like, honestly, for somebody like him, it's a, because he basked in this, pat me on the back. I'm a good little.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny. Other people have commented on that, and it's a really simple reason. I've always called him that.
Okay.
In my family, my Aunt Marianne was Aunt Marianne. My brother and I called her Aunt Marianne. My dad, to my cousin David, was Uncle Freddie. And then then it was Elizabeth, Donald, Robert. We never referred to them as anything other than their first names. And what else would I call him? So it's not disrespectful. It's just what I've called him my entire life. And
because of what he's done and the way he acts, it's kind of perceived that my Uncle Gene, on the Italian side of the family, I don't call him uncle, though he's my uncle.
Right.
Since I was a kid, and he's 17 years older than me, I always call him, Eugene. It's just.
Right, that's the thing. Like, Donald is not, like, my Uncle Rob was 17 years older, so Donald's 19 years older. So, not like my parents' age or anything like that. And, it's not meant to be disrespectful, not that he deserves anybody's respect. I honestly just wish everybody would call him Donald, because that would drive him up.
I call him many things, and Donald usually isn't one of them.
Yeah.
All right, in hindsight, with your book, is there anything in hindsight, because we know hindsight is 2020, is there anything you would have put in the book that you didn't, that maybe you could reveal? Or is that for another book?
I had initially wanted to write more about my dad, because he's the most interesting character for me, and because I feel like Donald has done him such a disservice. Like, if before the book came out, if you had asked somebody who Freddie Trump was, they either wouldn't know that Donald had an older brother, or they would know all that Donald has said about him, that he was a loser alcoholic. So it was really important to me to set the record straight. He wasn't just a professional pilot. He served his country. He was a second lieutenant in the National Guard. And, so when I hear people say nobody in the Trump family ever served, and it's like, yeah, that's because Donald doesn't want you to know that his older brother, who is an infinitely superior person, actually did serve his country and would have gone to Vietnam if he hadn't aged out, or he would have fought in the Bay of Pigs because that's when he was really in the Guard still. So It turned out though that I think it's okay that a lot of those stories haven't gotten told yet, and there will someday hopefully be another book
Okay.
that focuses more on that. And other than that, um, just because of timing, I have a lot more to say about racial injustice in this country, but because of the timing of it, like I literally finished writing it the weekend after the George Floyd murder had occurred. So I couldn't really go on and on about it, and I felt like it deserved so much more than I had time for.
Right.
So it only got a brief mention. But other than that, no, I think I laid as much of it out on the table as I could, and certainly vis-a-vis Donald. So hopefully it's enough.
Okay.
You know.
Was there anybody surprised by in your inner circle, not us out here, because you actually confirmed many things that I thought in the book, and I was like, I kept telling Debbie, because Debbie read the book first, and I was like, and she actually read it really quick, like, come on, finish the book, because I wanted to review it on my show. But is there anybody that was surprised that wasn't the last name of Trump in your inner circle? You don't have to name them, but in your tight circle that was like, I didn't know that this or this went on, or no?
They might not have known specific instances because I hadn't told them, but generally speaking, nobody was surprised at the overall tone of it. If anything, they were just like reading it all together. The horror of it was much more obvious than it had been when I told sort of stories in isolation over the years. So,
Right.
and it is horrifying. I mean, I think that in some ways, I know this isn't true, but it felt sometimes like writing it was harder than living it.
Wow.
Because it was so condensed and I had to grapple with it every day while he's destroying the country.
Yeah, that he's done. You mentioned your your nephew, and being someone that wears his heart on his sleeve. That pissed me off how they did with the medical and all that.
Yep.
I don't know if you want to say, but just curious, and I know that probably the viewers are curious. How is your nephew doing these days?
I prefer not to get into detail.
Okay.
He's incredibly well cared for, and gosh, what is he? Is he 21 now? Oh my God, it's incredible. But he's a beautiful, beautiful boy, but it's still what they did was just one of the most despicable, unforgivable things that's ever occurred. So.
Okay. I want to read something. I got to go off the page on this one. On page 210 of your book, you wrote, he rants, we're talking about Donald, about weakness of others, even when he demonstrates his own. But he can never escape the fact he is, and always will be, a terrified little boy. I've said this many times to Debbie while we've been watching Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon and everything else, because I see a little child behind the bully pulpit, which is just blows my mind. I served under 4 commanders-in-chief during my time in the military. I did 20 years and 28 days in the Navy. And it just blows my mind. Not that I agree with all of what they all did, but they were still my commander-in-chief. This guy, But do you think, would you agree with me that since he turned the White House into what I call the QVC house, because he pitches more, him and the My Pillow guy and everybody else, he pitches Goya and everything else. It's this, he's like an old Twilight Zone movie when Rod Serling wrote when the guy came to town with all the elixirs or whatever it's called. Cure that, and he's a snake oil salesman. That's what he is.
Yeah.
Do you think he's gotten worse from the bully pulpit as a petulant child, or he's just the same that you've always seen?
First of all, yes, he is like a real-time Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah.
It's quite horrifying. I think it's important to make the distinction between, is he getting worse, or is it just that he has more power and more influence? So is he doing anything differently than he's done in the last 40 years? I don't think so. Okay. It's just that now, instead of having a relatively small audience, whether it's through, New York tabloids or The Apprentice, um, in which, whatever he was saying wasn't necessarily taken very seriously, and it certainly didn't have an impact on people. Now he has the power of the Oval Office behind him,
Right.
and it magnifies and exacerbates everything he does, and it's like it's just grotesque, and that's one of the reasons why I continue to say he's not the problem. It's people who are in a position to do something about it,
Yeah.
who are in a position to say, what you're doing on a daily basis is unconstitutional.
Yes.
What you're doing is illegal. So we need to hold you accountable. Nope. We got Bill Barr debasing.
Forget about it.
I know, right? Let's not go.
No, I'm being sarcastic. That's my catchy. Forget. Bill
Yeah,
Barr,
right.
he makes me. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You can. How do you wake up every morning and look yourself in the freaking mirror when you know that you're destroying? I'm not just talking about Donald, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. And you know what irritates me the most along the lines of what you're saying is you can dislike all of these people. I don't think Donald is smart at all. But Bill Barr is not stupid. He's a lawyer. Lindsey Graham has been in politics forever. He's not a stupid man. He does terrible things. Mitch McConnell has been in power for, I think, over 30 years. Okay? These people, Ted Cruz, they're mostly lawyers. They didn't pass the bar being morons. So they know better, but they choose not to do better.
That's right.
Donald doesn't know, and he doesn't know government. I worked in government. He doesn't know government, and he doesn't want to know government. And when Mark Meadows is, I think it was his chief of staff, or whatever, says, oh, he reads into the late hours of the morning. He doesn't read, unless they're pop-up books or scratch and sniff. He doesn't read. Come on, let's get real here. Yeah, you're insulting. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a retired military guy. I pay my taxes like everybody else. I'm a citizen just like you are. Stop insulting people's intelligence that we're just stupid.
That's
if
right.
If they despise it, that's their freaking problem. If they want to go to COVID Central rallies and tell you about their rights because they refuse to wear a mask, I'm for masks. Okay? And one day he says you're a patriot if you wear them, and the next day is not. That's not strength. That's strength to them, which we'll get into a little bit. I'm jumping here because you hit a point. I almost hit like a nerve here.
Yeah.
Bill Barr and them, I absolutely agree with you. It's despicable what they're doing. And I make this point on my Twitter page to my followers all the time and on my show. This isn't politics, folks, anymore. It wasn't politics. Because honestly, I've cut off people that were close to me that support Donald.
Yeah.
And I'm voting for Joe Biden. 100%. Deb and I are going to the polls to vote because I'm not taking a chance with a mail-in ballot because I don't trust him.
Right.
But this isn't politics because I could talk to the other side and disagree on a policy. But when you talk about kids in cages and stuff that he's done, it's not policies anymore. It's effing evil. And if you supported evil during it, like our beloved Maya Angelou said, I'm going to probably misquote her just a little bit, but you know the quote. When they show you who they are the first time, I don't know the exact quote, I'd have to read it. When they show you who they are the first time, believe it. He showed us who he was. They've shown us who they are, and they need to get voted out. You're absolutely right. It's those other people that empower him that don't walk into his, even with Nixon. If Nixon's ghost were to come back, he'd be better than Donald. Because the Republicans then finally said it was even Papa Bush, who was one of his staunchest supporters, finally when he heard the tapes and walked this, it's too much. You got to go. You got to, because you're going to get impeached. You're going to get impeached. You got to go. None of them will do it. I don't know what it is what is it you think that he has on him? What does he have on him?
That I don't know, obviously. I mean, I don't know any better than anybody else. But I think it's a combination of things. I think for some people, they're true believers. Like the Mark Meadows and the Kevin McCarthys, and the Jim Jordans. They're just so stupid and crazy. For somehow they think it's to their benefit because they also seem not to have read the Constitution. For some people, the more powerful, like Bill Barr, Mitch McConnell, Mike Pompeo, they have an agenda.
Yes.
And I think it varies from person to person, but it's some version of wanting a kind of theocratic apartheid state, or autocracy or something, in which the all of the power accrues to them,
Right.
and they, thanks in part to the incredibly racist electoral college, get to wield power over the majority regardless of what we want. I mean, how many times have we won the popular vote
Right.
and not won the so and then there are the people in the middle, people presumably like Lindsey Graham, who do seem to act as if they are being blackmailed. It's very hard not to see it that way. So whatever it is, I don't know. But what I do know is that if they had 1 ounce of decency, they would say, you know what? This is going to be humiliating. It's going to be embarrassing. I will lose my Senate seat, perhaps, but I may save my country. And, somebody like that who came forward and exposed all of it would be a hero.
Yes, they would. They would be a hero. And again, I'm one of those people that I believe I have a soul. And there's no price you could, people say, oh, if Donald gave you $15 million to come in, no, because I still have to look in the mirror every day. Right. No, I have a soul. My soul is not for sale. Right. I don't care if you look at it from a religious standpoint, my soul is not for sale.
Right.
And, Lindsey Graham, back to him for a second. There's politics and there's dirty politics. Sure, there's all of that. We've seen the games on both sides, both parties playing. Let's be honest. But then there's above and beyond. Lindsey Graham said in 2016, he's xenophobic, he's homophobic, he's a race baiter. Okay? Mitt Romney, who everybody wants to give all of this rah. Mitt Romney. Yeah. Let me tell you something, folks, and I know Mary will probably agree with this. Let's not forget, because like I said, I deal in facts, not alternative facts. Mitt Romney was kissing Donald's rear end at the beginning when he went to New York City, when he thought he was getting the Secretary of State position. And all the stuff that he said that was true about business, and he's this and he's all of the things he said were true. But when he thought he was going to get that Secretary of State position, he went there and he had dinner with him. You couldn't call me, because I'm going to be honest with you. I've said it on record and I'll stand by it. The only person that I feel ever went into that administration for the bigger good of the country, this is how I feel, it doesn't mean everybody else does, is General Mattis. Because if you remember when they did that, I can't call it anything but verbal masturbation around the table about how great Donald is, and Mike Pence leading with the rah crap. Give me a start on him. General Mattis said, it's an honor to serve the troops.
That's right.
Not you, Donald, the troops. And I served with General Mattis, not together, but at the same time. I was in the military.
Yeah.
He was always respected. He was above reproach, or whatever the word is. He resigns, and like Donald does with his little games, he fired him. He was a little general. He was this, he was that. It's so BS, the games that he says. But the rest of them, they lost their souls. John Kelly, I know John Kelly served. People say, Brad, you served. How do you not respect John Kelly? You know why I don't respect John Kelly's service anymore? Because, and we'll get into this, he allowed him to attack Gold Star families. And he lost his son. I'm pretty sure he lost his son during the war, but if not, his son was in the military. And we know the whole story about, we'll get into that a little bit later, about the Atlantic and going thing. You're a military man. You've heard this man disrespect the military. It's above and beyond. You don't get because you left. And right now, his silence, to me personally, just me, confirms what has been said, because if he was so, unless I missed it, and I know I did because you were breaking news yesterday on AOL. Everybody laughs, I still got AOL. You were the top story. I mean, the top story when I logged in, when from your show, whatever, it would be breaking news. But I want to go back one other point with your book, and if I could, your dad. I know you admired your dad. I know you loved your dad. I'm being a guy that my dad was my whole world. I mean, he passed away in 1998. I still, he's here today because he would love that I was speaking to you, because he loves people that spoke out, and he did that. He was not a big name, but he was a civil rights and social issues pioneer. He marched with Dr. King. He fought against Anita Bryant. He fought for Native Americans. Any cause that he thought he could use his voice at personal cost when it wasn't. Some people find it it's in vogue now to speak out, because some people aren't genuine, and a lot of them are. I hate it for the people that are, because the ones that aren't get the press when the ones that are legit should.
Right.
But if you have one message that you really wanted people to know about your dad, from the heart for the viewers, what could you tell us?
I have been in touch with a couple of old friends of his. One from his neighborhood where he grew up, who was married to my dad's childhood best friend, and a couple of his fraternity brothers. And they say to this day, he's the greatest person they've ever known. They speak of him with such love and affection, and they credit him with giving them some of the most extraordinary memories they have, because again, he was a pilot, but he didn't just fly for an airline. He had his own little plane. So he would say to his friends, hey guys, I'll fly you out in my little Piper Cub to Montauk or to Bimini for the weekend, and then we'll get on my boat and I'll take you fishing, because he was also a consummate boatsman and fisherman as well. And they remember that like it happened yesterday. So to hear the way his friends speak of him tells me more about who he was than I ever learned from his own family, who treated him with nothing but contempt.
And see, my father was put in an orphanage in the 1930s. He was born in 1928, and he was 40 years my senior. And I never really was exposed to his family because they were evil to him. But what you just said, people that were around him to this day, they say, I'm an only child. They say, you were your father's whole world. When your father, I was in the hospital, your father go 20 miles out of the way to bring me chicken soup. His word was his bond. Loyalty was everything, which he instilled these qualities in me, and I can't thank him enough for it. So I've heard you on other shows talk about your dad, but I wanted you to get that out because I felt close to your dad because he reminded me of my dad in the sense that his family was rotten to him. I mean, he had a brother. They took the brother out of the orphanage in the 30s and left my dad in there till he grew up and joined the Navy. I'm like, how the F do you do that? How do you do that to him? And he endured stuff in the orphanage that was just, I don't even want to go into with how they abuse kids. But okay. I watched an interview with you with Chris Cuomo early on, probably when your book just hit.
Yeah.
And you said that, I don't remember if you said it in the book at all, but you definitely said it with Chris, that you've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, Donald used the N-word before. You've heard that? Am I right?
Yeah, I don't believe I wrote about it in the book because I just assumed that people would assume that because he's so racist.
Yes.
But it was not an uncommon thing to hear in my grandparents' house.
Okay. Where I want to go with that talking point is this. You did an interview with Jane Fonda. Go ahead, Jane Fonda. And a good interview, by the way.
Oh, she was amazing.
I bet.
I mean, she's not a professional journalist, and that was one of the best interviews I've had. It was incredible.
Cool. Now, she said something, and I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction with it. Mm-hmm. She said, if you hate Donald, he wins. And you responded kind of halfway agreeing, and correct me if I'm wrong, halfway agreeing, and I try to get everything factual, but that in the last, I want to say like 6 months, you've probably said hate more than you probably had your whole life. Is that right or wrong? Am I close?
Yeah. My response actually, because, I've thought about this a lot because I agree with her. It's very debilitating. Yes. But I think it's been more like 3.5 years. In the last 3.5 years, okay. I've said the word hate and I felt the feeling of that emotion more than I have in my entire life. And it's awful. Right. Because, I understand why people hate Donald. He's a horrible human being, and he's killing Americans every day. He's tortured and incarcerated children, for God's sakes. Yes. If anybody's worthy of hate, it's him. However, he doesn't feel it. Like when we hate him, what effect does it have on anybody but us? It is such a destructive emotion. It's like it's worse than guilt.
Okay. Now I agree with you, and I understand that logic. But being the guy that I am, I hate his guts. Yeah. And what I've done with my hate is what I'm doing with you now and other people, using my platform to, not so much with you, but other people, because I've got a lot of writers on Ringside Report that are resistant writers, and we bring factual articles on what's going on, what he's doing, what is the ministry. So if you're on the fence, you can read this. Doesn't mean it's going to sway voters, and it may. So I've taken my hatred for him and got into doing this because Ringside Report started in 2004, my website, and I was a boxing guy. I still am a boxing guy. But I've taken it now in a different direction, though boxing is still on there, talking about politics, talking about civil rights issues, and actually doing the work of my father through this medium and through writing. But my personal reason why I particularly hate his guts and it started out is one, being a military career guy when he attacked Senator John McCain. That just, I lost, honestly, I lost my shit over that. When he attacked Senator McCain, I was like, it's over. It's over. His election is over. That's it. They're not going to put him up as the Republican guy. He's done. But in the world of the Trump party, because it's not the Republican Party anymore, I say Republicans, it's not even a Republican. There's no "re" anymore in it. It's
right.
They love Senator John McCain. Now, I didn't agree with much of what Senator John McCain's policies were, but as a human being, I respected him. War hero, 100%. You don't get to change the narrative because a jerk like Donald says he's not a war. I like my war heroes not captured. The man, I almost interviewed him years ago in 2000 because he was a big boxing guy, and he passed what was called the Muhammad Ali Act. It was about promoters like Don King who were doing a lot of things that were dirty, and he got it passed. The man couldn't raise his arms to comb his own hair. He was there for 5.5 years. His father was an admiral who could have got him out of there earlier. These are facts. These aren't Kellyanne Conway alternative facts.
Right.
There's people that were there with him to the abuses that he took. Okay. I worked in 1992 in the military on an assignment. It's declassified now, but back then it was classified. And I worked for 6 months in Arlington, Virginia, declassifying POW MIA documents. It was, I believe it was Senator McCain. I don't know if it was Senator Kerry at the time. And I think Bill Clinton signed it. Might have been Papa Bush. I can't remember. But they put it together and we were declassifying documents. So I got to go through POW records and see things that these people, including Senator McCain, that they endured. So for Donald to attack him, so I hate him for that. Debbie is African American, so I'm in an interracial relationship and have been, and she is my whole world. My son is mixed. I hate him for that, for how he did with the Central Park Five, and so on and so on, and how he's doing right now in the country. Because when he says they're going to come to your urban areas and do what you know what? I wouldn't say I would have more respect for him, but his base would love it. He should just say the N-word because that's what he means. But he throws out that dog whistle bull crap that he says, and then if you hit his base up, they say to you, he's not a racist. What do you mean he's a racist? He's not a racist because he told them he's the least racist person you ever was.
I blame the media. I'm sorry for a lot of that because you know what? He says racist things. He does racist things. Right. They still won't just say of course he's a racist. And by waffling and by, being polite about it, it gives people permission to say, no, the media doesn't say it. So I think I agree with everything you just said. I think the point Jane Fonda was making, and by the way, I agree with you. Like, how can you not hate him?
Right.
It's good, and I completely get it. And sometimes I do too.
Right.
But I think the point was, of course, hate what he does. And maybe, I don't want to speak for her. Right. I think she was coming at it from a more...
Oh, no, I understood where she was coming from.
Yeah.
I understand that logic. I'm not saying she's wrong. I understand it.
Right. I just mean, I'm from a slightly different point of view. What I would say is, why even elevate him? You know what I mean? Like, I think the best way to combat him is be indifferent to him.
Right.
Like, the best thing that could happen is for the volume on him to be turned to zero.
Right.
And and just attack his enablers and attack the policies and stuff like that, and just treat him as the insignificant piece of dirt that sorry, I'm getting so angry, my God, because you also just mentioned the Central Park Five.
Right.
And people have said to me, oh, it's really brave what you're doing. Like, really brave? You know what's brave? Raising a child of color in America is brave. leaving a hostile country and traveling thousands of miles through hostile territory to come to a country to better their lives and then risk being thrown in a prison, that's brave. So what I'm doing from the comfort of my own home is an obligation and it's my responsibility. It's not brave. So, I hear people talk about, your situation, the Central Park Five, and it just makes my blood boil because I think the Central Park, I was just talking about this, so it's been on my mind a lot. What he did was so vile. And by the way, what he was allowed to do, like I've never put it this way before, but it just occurred to me. What the New York Times did was they allowed Donald to publish a hit piece on 5 innocent children. And it was so vile. I'm sorry?
It never came back and apologized.
He still thinks they should get the death penalty.
Yes.
He's insane.
Yeah, he's a rotten bastard.
And he's allowed to say that.
Yes.
So, like, he should never have been allowed in polite society again after that.
Correct.
So what's wrong with what's wrong with us, man?
Yeah. I mean, when did QAnon? Oh God. We all love Tom Hanks. I mean, you're social media savvy. I know you limit your tweets, but they're more powerful like that. I get your thought process. But Tom Hanks, we all love Tom Hanks. I seen Tom Hanks running. I don't know if it was Central Park or wherever. You remember the wedding video? They were getting married, and he stopped and he talked to him and he did the But now QAnon says Tom Hanks is eating your kids. Now I find no humor in that, but the only humor is really, how does he cook the kids? Really, Tom Hanks, Lady Gaga, who puts herself out there, does so much for so many different causes. She eats your Hillary Pizzagate. Are you freaking kidding me?
But there's always that element of society. This is the problem. I feel like
he promotes it.
Well, right. So, in my view, one of the functions of liberal democracy is to contain those people. That 22% of the white supremacist, Nazi, KKK, racist, misogynist people. Just contain them. I mean, they can have a vote, but don't represent them beyond their number, right? So what happened in 2016? For 2 years, 100% of the United States federal government represented the worst 22% of us.
Yeah.
And now, thankfully, we took back the House in 2018, but it's still 85%. It represents that hateful, despicable, ignorant, willfully ignorant 22%. So, of course, things like QAnon are going to get mainstream because we also have state-run media at Fox News. So then the question then becomes, what do? We take everything back. That's literally what we do.
But the scariest thing is I'm sure you saw the clip when the reporter asked him, he said, he never knows. He never knows anybody. Then he produced 100 pictures of him shaking hands. Maxwell, her and Epstein should be just hung. Forget about it. But he doesn't know this one. He wishes her well, but everybody else, really? Okay. But they bring it up to him. He doesn't really know him, but is that a bad thing? That they want that I'm going to save the world, which is the petulant child in him. Are you kidding me? But then, you know what? I shouldn't be shocked, and people shouldn't be shocked, but it's because, maybe it's my military background, because I worked very closely for one tour with the ceremonial guard, and we sent people to the White House for all the ceremonies, and I processed what's called a Yankee White. That's what you need to get around the president. So the cooks and the musicians and my guys, ceremonial guard guys for the Navy that do the flags and the rifles and all that, they have to be processed in a certain thing. I ran that program for the Navy portion of it. It's just shocking that from the bully pulpit, you have somebody, but in 2016, David Duke endorsed him, and I don't know who David Duke is, and then he was like, oh yeah, and then he proved that he didn't know who David Duke was. And then he didn't denounce David Duke. So I know it's not shocking, but it's still, for me, shocking that people could say whatever they want about President Bush, the father, the son. There's difference of opinions, but we've never and I'm 52 years old, so I could say going back to President Carter is when I really remember, old enough to remember what was going on. Mm-hmm. We've never had someone from the bully pulpit say the insane, stupid things that he says. Besides for being orange, looking crazy, being almost 80 with the blonde hair. I mean, just it's insane. It's like, I can't even explain it. It's like the worst of Saturday Night Live.
Right. Well, he has no dignity.
None. And
No.
your grandmother said that in the book. That your grandmother, when she was in a hospital bed, I think you were visiting, she said, correct me if I'm wrong, he's always been a slob. He's always been a slob.
He's always been like this. My aunt has said that. He's always been this way. He's always been this way.
Yeah,
but that's not an excuse. That what that means to me is that people aren't paying attention.
Yeah.
So somebody with no dignity, somebody with no sense of honor, he's where he is. Like, why would he change?
Yeah.
He's gotten away with all of it. He's been enabled. He's been used, and he doesn't care. He only cares that in his very limited mind, he is getting what he wants.
Right.
So, un-American, traitorous, whatever, slinging accusations at your opponent that most likely apply to you, whatever. Enough people are going to believe him. Nobody's going to stop him.
No. On that note, I want to, if I could, segue into some talking points from your standpoint, from your mind, what you think on these different talking points, if I could. And they're all during his administration. Charlottesville. Now, these are my observations, and I know a lot of other people have seen them, but these are like things that, just too much. So you had Donald with Elaine Choi, who's an Asian American, Mitch McConnell's wife. You had Gary Cohen, who's Jewish, standing behind him after a girl was killed, okay? Ran a car into her, and he said, quote, "Very fine people." Mary, you and I know that very fine people don't say Jews are the K word, and blood and soil, folks, if you don't know what blood and soil is, look it up. It's about Adolf Hitler, and call black people the N-word. There's no fine people in there with the tiki torches. There's protesting. They're allowed to do, look, I'm an American. They're allowed to do that. And I don't want people to lose the ability to protest. But right is right and wrong is wrong. Because if you stop the KKK from marching down my street, then you stop Black Lives Matter from marching down the other street. But it doesn't mean that what their cause that they're doing is right and you support it. But it is a right that we have as Americans. When he said very fine people, the first thing that came to me was, and I'm not fond of his kids, and the youngest one, I won't even say his name because he's off limits. I tell people, and they get mad at me, some resistors. I say, no, he's underage, he's off limits.
Right, totally.
Okay? It doesn't matter what your thoughts are on how it'll turn out, I don't care. He's off limits. The grown kids, no, they're not off limits. I can't stand them. But his daughter converted to Judaism to marry that creep that she's married to that's basically running the world. It's like Dr. Strangelove. He's coming down on the bomb, Jared. Her kids are Jewish, if I'm correct, right?
You are correct.
How can you say that people that were saying Jews will not replace us, blood and soil, which is Nazism, how can you say they're fine people when your grandkids, which we never see a picture of,
Nope.
I don't know if you saw that documentary that's coming out about the photographer. Have you seen that? And they have President Obama, and they have him, and he was a photographer for President Reagan and President Obama. Okay, and then Donald made it where you can't take any internal pictures. And people don't think about these type of things, but you can say whatever you want about JFK. We know in today's times all the JFK stuff would be out there.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton's indiscretions would be, President Clinton's, would they be out there with social? We know that. But with that said, you still saw JFK with John and Caroline and throwing a football and, just lovable pictures. The picture of them under the desk that everybody loved with John hiding. God rest their souls. You saw that. You see none of that. They even had a dog. Santino told me, Santino is dogs for Biden. That's his campaign. He's our dog. But he said, he doesn't even have a dog, which, all right, whatever. How do you say, in your expert opinion, how do you say very fine people when your grandchildren are Jewish?
Yeah, I'll answer that in a second, but first I'd say, how do you stand there with Jewish children or as a Jew or as a non-white American and just let that slide? But
Right.
that's a different issue entirely. I think it's possible two things happened. First, somebody, probably Stephen Miller,
Yes.
told Donald that this whole, that his base probably really appreciated and admired the protest and the pitchfork, the tiki torches, and the explicitly anti-Semitic language.
Yes.
When Heather Heyer was murdered by a white supremacist,
Yes. That's her name.
Donald was probably told that he had no choice but to say something supportive, even though he probably didn't want to, because he doesn't like to be told what to do. And he did, his initial statement was lukewarm, but at least it was, it wasn't pro Nazis.
Right.
But in thinking it over and then realizing that his base liked what happened, he probably got really angry and felt that he'd been forced to do something he didn't want to do, and inevitably then undid it by saying very fine people on both sides. And if you look at that clip, he says it was such an attitude.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And he's like, see, don't tell me what to do.
Yes.
I'm not a child. And then he goes ahead and acts like a child
Yes.
by doing the irresponsible, spoiled brat maneuver of getting his own way despite everything.
Well, you made a very valid point that I absolutely agree with. You said in an interview that when they come at him, he doubles down. You make him mad, he's going to show you more and more. Yep. For anybody religious watching this show, and I believe in God, but I'm not. Organized religion is. I'm on the outside of organized religion. It's just my personal. I say it on Twitter. I've been asked. I have no problem saying it. I have my faith. I believe in God. You won't see me probably in any church anytime soon because I got my problems. I was brought up Catholic, and even though my dad was Jewish and he's bar mitzvah, I was brought up Catholic. Forget about it. And the other side's Italian. So I have a problem with religion, but I also have a problem with religious hypocrisy.
Yep.
How you can say, when he was asked, and I quote, "Is there anything you would ask God for forgiveness for?" And he said, "Nothing. Nothing. I mean, nothing, Donald, nothing. I'm waiting for him to walk across Central Park, not the river, but
the boat pond.
pond. Like, did you ever see Being There with Peter Sellers?
Yeah.
You remember at the end, he walked Chauncey the gardener. He walked across the rocks like he was Jesus. He put the umbrella down and it went in, and he walked across. How am I supposed to walk across the water? Nothing. That's insanity. But no, but I agree with your point. That's Charlottesville. Let's talk about Colin Kaepernick. Okay. I personally support his right to take a knee. I also have no problem if you want to not like him, because that's your American right not to like him taking a knee. But what I have not allowed people to do, especially when it comes to me, is change the narrative. And that's what their side likes to do. Everybody has an opinion, but the thing is, you don't get to change the narrative because you don't like it. He took a knee, you already know this, for police brutality, and he put himself out there. Of course, you got their side that said, and where I know boxing like the back of my hand, Debbie knows football. She's a Saints fan. She's from New Orleans. So if you ever meet us, you got to hear too, a New Yorker and a Louisiana talking. You ask Deb a question and she answers you, "Hey Brad, you going to interview Mary today?" "Yeah." I'm like, "Huh?" They had a "yeah" to the end of their That's my Debbie. But he took the knee. His career was far from over. He basically McCarthyism himself. And folks, if you don't know what McCarthyism is, when they blacklisted people because they had different beliefs. Joseph McCarthy, who was an alcoholic and a racist and many other things that was proven, and he had a buddy of Donald's on his side, Roy Cohen. Roy Cohen, a creep, a real creep.
Real creep.
The dirtiest can be. In fact, in my opinion, the Roy Cohen of today, folks, is Rudy Giuliani, is the Roy Cohen of today. But Colin.
Yeah.
So Donald, I read Burt Reynolds' biography. I was a big Burt Reynolds fan. And Burt owned a piece of the USFL. He had 2 biographies come out. The second one, he bashed Donald and said that he ruined the USFL. Now, that's his opinion. I don't know that to be fact, but that was what Burt said in the book.
Yeah.
Do I believe it? Probably so, because he ruins everything he touches.
He does indeed.
Real businessman. In fact, one of my writers said that he believes scripture is chapter 13, bankruptcy 6 or something like that. She turned it into a funny line Nikki did on an article about his, filing bankruptcy. Because remember his what was it, 2 Corinthians? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
But so you got Colin taking a knee. You have him coming out saying they're son of a bitches or bastards or whatever it was he said.
Yep.
I have a very, very good friend of mine who doesn't like Donald, but he thought up until that point that he wasn't racist, so to speak, that it was class. It was like that Donald would come because of class. And my friend is very open-minded. He'll tag on Republicans, he'll tag on Democrats. He's very, I got to give him, he's in the middle, he's very fair. Once he attacked Colin Kaepernick and black football players, who a lot of them make more money than Donald, he said, Brad, he called me up, or he texted me. He said, you've been right, you're absolutely right, he's an effing racist. He's a racist. I still think it's class with him too.
Oh yeah.
With the racist, because he looks down, and I'm going to tie that in with something you said in your book. I couldn't find what page, or I quoted for the viewers. So he says that. But any leader, okay, and I do consider myself a leader from my military time. I led people. Mary, that was a watershed moment in America. A real leader would have saw that and invited Kaepernick to the White House, invited other black leaders to the White House, not the black leaders that bow down to him and say how great he is, because they make me sick.
Yep.
They make me sick.
Yep.
And we'll get into that in a minute, but that's just disgusting. It drives Debbie and I nuts. Then he could also have invited people on the other side of the issue.
Yep.
That's fair. Let's bring them to the table. Let's bring the media in. I want total transparency. I want people to see that I want to do something about this issue. That was a watershed moment in America.
Yep. And
what did he do? They're son of a bitches. I won't watch the NFL. For somebody that doesn't watch all these shows like Bill Maher and whatever show you're on, he sure knows a lot about what the hell is going on.
He really does. It's fascinating.
It's amazing. But in your professional opinion, where I'm going with the Colin Kaepernick talking points, what is it with them that his side, and not just Donald, the trumpets or whatever you want to call them, what is it that, in your professional opinion, makes them change the narrative when they know what the real narrative is?
Well, that's something that Donald has to do, because the real narrative so often doesn't help him. In the real narrative, he is a failed business person who's filed for bankruptcy 4 or 5 or 6 times.
Right.
He is entirely unaccomplished. He's incompetent. He's weak. He's been used. He's illegitimate. That's reality.
Yes.
That's unacceptable to him. So of course he has to change the narrative, which is how we get alternative facts, right? So with the Colin Kaepernick situation, what that is a powerful, dignified black man who is standing up for something that is a real issue in this country. I mean, can we just say George Floyd plus thousands of other people?
George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, that they still have not.
I mean, come on. Come on. Like, we don't even have time to say all the names, right?
Right.
So, for Colin Kaepernick to be allowed, to get away with that, would not be acceptable to Donald and his followers, because 1, it makes them look bad, and 2, it's a real issue that really does need to be addressed. If you're a leader and you're not addressing it, you're failing.
Yes.
Right? So they need to pretend that he's quote unquote disrespecting the flag, which is such nonsense. Such nonsense.
Right.
Yeah.
You see behind me?
Mhm.
Two flags. That one was flown over Guantanamo Bay, Cuba when I re-enlisted in 1995. He didn't disrespect that flag. He didn't disrespect the flag that's above that you can't see in my shadow box from my career in the military. But what's disrespectful, excuse me, with the flag is when I see these hillbillies with it in the back of their pickup truck alongside the Confederate flag, alongside the American flag. And I'm going to be honest with you about the American flag, if I may, for my viewers. I'm not a flag burner. I know people have the right to do it. It's an American right. I'm not wanting to spit on the flag, wipe your butt with the flag. I've seen it all. I'm not one of those people. But I'm going to say this because it's from the heart and I mean it. I feel that the flag should be wrapped around white people, black people, Asian people, any group, straight, gay, LGBTQ, everybody. The flag should cover everybody. And right now, what Donald has done with that coming out and hugging the flag, which I think he got that flag is probably 7 months pregnant now. I hate to see what that baby looks like. When he came out as CPAC and he humped the flag. That's disrespectful.
Yes,
okay?
it is.
That's disrespectful. All right? But I feel my grandparents, God rest their soul, Italian side of the family, the Campanellos, who lived in Pontiac, Michigan. My grandfather served in World War II. He was in Anchorage, Alaska. He worked on guns. They put that out there on Flag Day. They were proud because it represented all of us, not white people, not black people, all people. Now when you see this flag, it's like they hijacked the flag. And if you put the flag next to that, I'm sorry, that piece of shit Confederate flag that's about slavery and racism, and I don't want to hear about the Dukes of Hazzard because none of us, we were kids and we really didn't realize that the general, whatever the general lead a car with the flag. I know we're in a more aware time now that wouldn't be acceptable on a TV show. But at least Bo and Luke, I don't think they, were being outright racist. But the whole flag thing about disrespecting the flag, and you know this too, Mary. You know why he took the knee, which they'll never admit. It was a military person, and I want to read this because, like I said, I believe in facts. Where's it at? It was retired Army Green Beret Nate Boyer who convinced Colin to take a knee. That's who reached out to him and said, take a knee. It's more respectful. Even though he wasn't crazy about him doing it, he said it's more respectful. Colin opened his ears and he listened to him. He didn't have to. He could do whatever way he chooses to, but he did that. You got a football player, okay, like you said, Fox News, I think it was Laura Ingraham, Fox as we call it, told the basketball player, shut up and dribble. Really? Shut up and dribble? They're doing more for racial equality than Fox News ever will.
But, oh gosh,
yeah. It's a no-brainer. But
yeah.
your take, like you said, on the flag, I agree with you 100% with this flag issue.
Yeah.
Changing the narrative. Because they're brainless. What is it?
No, it's all they've got because, if they accepted what we accept as reality, then what's their purpose, right? First of all, his base would hate it.
Yeah.
Okay. And secondly, it's almost like by narrowing the scope of what it means to be American, of what's acceptable, of what's respectful, right? It excludes dissent in a way that's entirely un-American, by the way.
Yes.
And it allows them to get away with so much and then make the guy who should be held up as a role model into the bad guy, and then it allows them to pull stunts. I don't know if you remember when Mike Pence spent millions of taxpayer dollars to go to a football game.
Yes.
Where football players are going to be kneeling so he could throw a temper tantrum and leave immediately. It was all for show. So, when you don't have any guiding principles or moral authority, you can do stuff like that. And there are plenty of people who will go along with you. Anybody at this point in our history who doesn't understand what the Confederate flag stands for, you can fool them 100% of the time.
Absolutely. And you talked about Mike Pence. We unfortunately live in the shitty red state of Indiana. I hate it. I hate the state. I'm not going to say all of it. People tell me if you go closer to Indianapolis, it's more liberal. We haven't been able to venture out because of COVID-19.
Right.
But when I ride my bike through the neighborhood we live in, I see all the Trump 2020 sign, Trump Pence 2020, and I always laugh because under it says law and order. I'm like, yeah, law and order. There you go. The complete law and order. But Mike Pence, by a lot of people here, is hated, and he's one of those fake godly people in my mind. Him and mommy as I call her, they're so godly that she's going to teach at a school that won't allow gay children to go there. Oh no prejudice there, no discrimination there. You know.
Well, it's a religious thing, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
We need to get rid of that nonsense.
Oh yeah, exactly. You know, which ties into my next question. Women. We know a lot of urban Caucasian. I don't want to say Karens, but maybe some Karens in there. It's a popular thing.
I like it.
You like it? You don't like it? You don't like it?
I do.
Okay, Karen.
It's perfect. I don't know why, but it just worked.
I got carried by a guy the other day. He carried me. I can't say it on the camera. But you got the Hollywood access tape breaks. Okay? Now I put this out there. I have no problem putting myself out there. Have I ever said locker room talk? Absolutely. I have. I'm not saying it's right, but I have. But I have never said in my days of being single, because of who I am, I can move on that lady because I'm a star, or I'm not saying I'm a star, but I'm just saying because of who I am in my place in society, that's what he did. That's what he said, because it wasn't because he was good looking. Forget about it. We know that. Okay? And if you listen to Stormy Daniels, well, we won't go there. But
yeah, we won't.
But I was like, his campaign is over. Women are going to be like, women that respect themselves are going to be like, bridge too far. Then he comes out with that sorry, lame excuse, and I could be wrong, but I think in that same sorry, lame apology, I should say, not excuse, he threw Bill Clinton in there about what he said on the golf course was much more, which is typical deflection BS that him and Mikey do.
Yep.
Which I think Mikey only wants to be there because that's the closest he's ever going to get to the presidency.
Oh, yeah.
I think if something would happen to Donald, they say, "Look, Mike, you can't be president. We'll put Mitch in, or the speaker." It would be Mitch because the Speaker of the House, where it goes. So it would be Mitch McConnell, I think.
No, it would be Nancy Pelosi.
Oh yeah, you're right. It would be. I'm sorry, it would be Nancy Pelosi. You're correct. But how can any woman of any color, whether they had children or not, doesn't matter. How do you respect the male chauvinist pig who's proven it time and time and time again?
You know, it's something that we shouldn't have forgotten, but for some reason we did. This is a deeply, deeply misogynistic country. If Hillary Clinton had been a man with her qualification, she would have won by 500 million votes. I mean, seriously, wouldn't have been a question. Comey wouldn't have come out the way he came out, et cetera, et cetera. So, and we see it now with Joe Biden, like nothing's sticking in the way it did with Hillary Clinton because he's a guy, he's a white guy, you know? So I think, you know, with that aside though, speaking directly to the Hollywood Access tape, it's not simply that this country is very misogynistic in the way it's racist. It's that there is a lot of internalized misogyny. I grew up in a very misogynistic family, and some of the most misogynistic people in my family were women.
Okay.
I mean, the way some of the women spoke about other women in my family would like shock you. It was just, you do realize you're talking about people with whom you have something in common, right? You know, but they would speak about women as such, like, you're a woman, that's weird. But so I think that's part of it. I think a certain segment of the population has been programmed to think about Hillary Clinton in a particular way over the last 30 years. Especially when she was Secretary of State, she had like a 75% approval rating.
Right, people forget that. And Lindsey Graham was her friend. Lindsey Graham, her and McCain went out. They were friends. Now he talks about her like she's got 12 heads.
That's right. The other thing too that I think was an issue, um, I think a lot of women in this country do what their husbands tell them to do, and are afraid or unwilling or whatever to go against what their husbands want them to do, and they voted the way their husbands voted.
But isn't that like reminiscent of a 1950s society where the wife usually was Susie Homemaker, so to speak, and whatever the husband said is what went? You would think that we've come, and I agree with you, but you would think in 2020 or 2016 then that we've moved forward. And I know we have some, but it amazes me because he got a lot of those women's votes.
53% of white women voted for him.
There you go.
I mean, we need to listen to black women more because
right.
I think like, I don't know, -2% of black women voted for him. But listen, I don't remember who she was. I don't know if she's a state legislator or she's a candidate for something. But this woman who's in the government or wants to be in the government came out and said that she believed that every household should only have one vote and it should be the husband's.
Was that the one with the QAnon with the gun, Marjorie Greene, the Republican in Georgia? I don't know if that's her, but it sounds like something she would say.
Clearly, it's somebody who's insane. I mean, in 2020, saying men should vote and the wife should just keep her mouth shut. So it's, I mean, I think the particular strain of white evangelicism you were talking about earlier is responsible for a lot of this stuff, you know?
I agree.
And it's dangerous, and they benefit, like these churches don't pay taxes, and yet they are actively political in an extraordinarily detrimental way.
Franklin Graham, he should be paying taxes. I don't know what you think of Billy Graham, but I've said this and I'll stand by it. Maybe I'm wrong. It's my opinion. I honestly believe if Billy Graham were alive, he wouldn't like Donald. I couldn't see how, because he was there for all. I'm not saying he would or he wouldn't, but right. His son is insane. Yeah. It's funny how Mr. Religion, Jerry Falwell, he loves his pool boys or whatever, that insanity. But Donald, supposedly had something on. We're both parents. You raise your kids. We try. No parent is perfect. There's not a playbook on how to be a parent. But we raise our kids to not lie, not steal, not cheat. Be kind to other people. Don't be racist. All of these things. We want our kids to be better than us. But then you have Donald come along from the bully pulpit. When he gets back into his company, he'll do better numbers than his kids did. But then you got Eric and Junior, and the daughter obviously is the favorite, which your aunt said, I think she said, but it's obvious, vying for his love like it's Gladiator or something.
Or like it exists.
Like it exists, exactly, like it exists. But yeah. From a parental standpoint, and I'm saying, throwing a talk about, if you're so religious and you're raising your kids with these moral values, how do you align yourself with this guy? For the life of me, I don't understand it. Because you don't want your kids to be like him, but then, I'm not going to say on camera something that I usually say, but I stand by it. If I ever meet you, I'll tell you in person. But it's so extreme how far they'll go with this guy. And the biggest thing I think that drives me nuts is he has no loyalty to anybody. That's something that my dad instilled in me, loyalty. I've gone to bat for people that I shouldn't have out of loyalty. Finally had to cut him off. He's got none. He doesn't have loyalty to the best wife. He don't have loyalty to his children. He don't have loyalty to nobody.
Right.
In your book, and I'm glad that you did this in your book, point back to your book, your grandfather, oh my God. How do you nurture the worst in a child? I mean, that's what you basically said, if I'm correct. He saw the worst in him and said, that's what I like. Really?
Well, think about what you just said. You teach it, don't cheat, don't steal, don't lie, be kind. My grandfather said, nope, no. That's for weaklings. You do whatever you have to do to win, even if it's cheating, lying, stealing, and being mean.
Right.
So, when you grow up in that kind of atmosphere, and again, remember, my dad was 7.5 years older. My dad was the kind person. He was sensitive. He was loyal. He was all these other things that my grandfather disdained. So Donald watches my grandfather disapproving of all of the good things Freddie was.
Yeah.
What's the lesson?
Yeah.
Do not do that. You need to win, or I won't love you or respect you or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's weird, but you think about it, and by the time Donald got to kindergarten, he hadn't learned what everybody else normally learns. It's good to share, and it's it's good to be caring and whatever. He didn't get any of that, and I don't mean at all to let him off the hook. He needs to be, if anybody needs to be held accountable in our history, other than, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who should have been who weren't, and that's one of the problems we're suffering through right now. He really needs it, because if he's not, even if Joe Biden wins the election, if Donald doesn't get held accountable, then we may as well call it a day.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. With your family background, everything that you endured growing up, I know you lost your dad young. What made you go into the field that you went into?
I wish it were an interesting story, but it's really not. It had nothing to do with like understanding my family dynamics or anything. It was just a kind of um, expedient career choice at the time. And I found it interesting, and I like seeing patients and I like teaching, but it wasn't it wasn't a vocation exactly. And the stuff about it that I like the most is the stuff that I used in the book, the analysis
Yeah.
and the theory. So
Okay.
at least it came in handy eventually.
Yeah, you sure did. You have to laugh, but it's not funny. But it's laughable. Not how you went into it. In the
Okay.
book where you said no, it's perfect. Time was off. In the book when you said Fred said to you, "That's nasty. You want to get education, right?"
Yeah.
Grandpa, that's his favorite word. Nasty, nasty. Everything is nasty. I mean, that's like I hate to say it, but I'm waiting for him one day to lose it. Well, he lost it. I shouldn't say one day. That's not right.
Lose
And
it
people
more.
like nanny nanny boo boo. It sticks. They're like we're in the freaking playground. It's that ridiculous. Okay, President Obama. In your opinion, do you think that when, first of all, I despise him and his be best wife because she co-signed on that bullshit with the birtherism thing, when he roasted him at that White House dinner in 2012, and Donald, he didn't like it. Now I watched a documentary where he went to, I think Jesse Ventura's guy, and that's who told him say these crazy things because some of them will stick and some of them, whatever they said. But a lot of people allude to the fact that was what pushed him over the edge to run. Even though I know that I'm calling him a scumbag, Roger Stone wanted him to run. Oh, God, he's a creep. Just saying his name, I got to wash my hands.
Yep.
Wanted him to run. But do you think that 2012, because I believe that was the final straw, because President Obama roasted him. When he said the thing about Biggie and Tupac and all of that stuff that he did when he was roasting them about the birth certificate and all of that, you think that's what pushed him to say, you know what, I'm running?
There's no way to know for sure. It didn't help, but I personally think that it was a huge mistake on President Obama's part. First of all, because a lot of it wasn't even funny. There were a lot of ad hominem. It's not funny to make fun of Donald's appearance or his intelligence. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. But much more importantly, even though it was mockery, he spent a lot of time talking about a man who deserves none of our attention.
I agree.
So it elevated Donald in a way he never should be elevated. He should have been ignored. And so that it bothered me at the time. It still bothers me. I don't understand why anybody thought it was a good idea.
The flip side, and I respect your opinion, but the flip side of that might have been, and I'm not gonna say that you're wrong, but the flip side of that might have been that he was because there was times when I wanted President Obama to, like, honestly, when they went to, I think it was Papa Bush's funeral, I would have never shook Donald's hand. I wouldn't. I would not. I don't care. I would not have shook his hand. Hillary didn't. She didn't look at him.
Right.
I wouldn't. I was upset with him for doing that. I don't want to hear about. I know we go high there. You know, I understand. I would have shook his hand because I'm not that person. I'm not. If I don't like somebody, I don't care who it is. But do you think maybe he did that because he was so? Because that got a lot of legs on it, that birtherism thing, and I mean, it took a lot of steam in the media because they gave him the media, which I blame too, gave him a lot of
course.
space with that birtherism. And let's be honest. Let's be honest. You think, I know you know this, but you think Barack Hussein Obama, they hate to say his name because that makes him a Muslim just because of his name. They always leave out the part that his mom is actually white. They forget that part.
Yeah, well, so, America.
Right. So people think that he would get to the White House if he wasn't born in the United States. They wouldn't come out with that. I mean, come on, Hillary would have found that.
Of course.
All love it, you know, politics is politics. They would have found. So I kind of think, I understand what you're saying about giving him space, and he did. It became bigger than maybe what it needed to be. But I think also, in fairness to him, he was fed up. And I think that's probably the only way that he maybe saw it. Maybe it wasn't a good decision. But I really think that that's what caused him to do it. And I think that's why also, with the birtherism thing, that he went in the White House and basically was going to destroy anything that President Obama did that had his name attached to it. Because, you know, his base, and I don't know if you've ever seen him, this is how, I have to say dumb because I can't think of anything else. I've seen people from his base, they'll say to him, do you like Obamacare? No. Do you like the ACA? Yes.
Yes.
You schmucks, it's the same thing. They just call it Obamacare because it was passed this administration. It's the same thing. But that's where they're at.
Right.
But I hear you.
Yeah, and you know, I guess the bottom line is what did it accomplish that Obama maybe felt good that night about humiliating somebody so far beneath him? But I also agree with you. You know, diplomacy is one thing, but being polite to somebody who doesn't deserve it is another thing entirely. Like when I hear "we go high," I don't hear "we're wimps." I hear we fight hard, we don't pull punches, but we don't lie. You know,
right.
We don't engage in ad hominem attacks. We're not petty, we're not immature. We don't use dirty tactics. I mean, I don't see going high meaning we lay down on the road and let ourselves get trampled on. And I don't think shaking hands with a racist, white supremacist, misogynistic torturer of children is not going high. That's conceding something.
Yeah.
And we need to stop doing that because it just isn't, it's not going to work for us.
Well, you know, you made a point, and people could say, hey, Brad, you know, you're a legitimate journalist, and some of the things that you say in a title or something, I normally wouldn't say. But, you know, I've called him Diaper J. Trump, Bunker J. Trump. You know, I'm not going to lie, I have. I do that whether it's right or wrong, but I'm not saying it's right, but I'm not saying with Donald in particular, with me, the vitriol that comes out of him from the bully pulpit is insulting. In the way he talks to people, the way I see him talk to people of color, the way that they do nothing for the LGBTQ community. It just doesn't even exist, which I don't know how anybody from that community can vote for him. But then you had this guy, I can't think of his name now, that was over there with who's Don Jr.'s girlfriend, the one that screamed like the one that was married to Gavin Newsom. I didn't want to say her name, but there was one guy, you know, I forget how he termed it, but we're voting for him. They've done nothing for the community. In fact, where he took the what is it, transsexual? With the military, transgender.
Ben.
In the military, you got people fighting for our country, putting their life on the line, and then you're going to change, and then you're going to put it on Twitter because that pissed Mattis off. He was blindsided by that, and he's the Secretary of Defense at the time.
Right?
How anybody can vote for him? I know it. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying you're wrong. I think a lot of people say things like, "I wouldn't." If President Biden and Joe Biden wins and he does something wrong, he's always going to be President Biden with me. out of respect, but I can't respect Donald.
I just want to clarify something. I don't mean you can't mock him. Mock away.
Okay.
I mean, like, it doesn't help to like make fun of his weight or his hair or, you know, but to say that he's, you know, weak and cowardly, that's fine. Because that's that's what he does.
Right.
You know, he hides in the bunker. He takes pot shots at actual heroes because he's too much of a coward to serve his country. That's totally fine. In fact, I think that one of the things we need to do from now until the election is pile on with that kind of stuff, because elected Republicans aren't going to do anything.
No.
Donald can shoot them on Fifth Avenue and they're not going to do anything because they'd be dead. But seriously, like, you know, one of my missions is to continue hammering away at his psychological unfitness, his racism, his misogyny, and attack him in that way, in really personal ways, because that's going to get under his skin. It's going to make him less effective as a campaigner, and it may hopefully force him to act out in a way that even Mitch McConnell and Bill Barr can't pretend that it didn't happen.
Okay.
So I'm totally cool with that. I mean, I can't, you can do it in ways I can't.
Right.
I'm all for it. I didn't mean that at all.
Well, so, no, and you know, and back to that point, I do attack. I'm not gonna lie, I do attack his weight.
He deserves no respect.
Right, but I do, and I'll tell you why I attack his weight and stuff. And I normally wouldn't do that, but the reason why I use Nancy Pelosi's morbidly obese all the time with him. I call him a morbidly obese, orange, racist traitor. And
well, he is morbidly obese.
Do that is because I don't like how someone that is morbidly obese, by definition, by clinical definition, attacks women that are heavy. I think he's always calling other people what he is.
Right, but you're not making fun of him. You're stating a fact about him.
Right.
That's totally fine. And the other thing too is, and which is important to remember, he doesn't deserve our respect. Right. And one of the reasons he doesn't is because nobody disrespects the office he holds more than he does.
Exactly.
So what are we respecting him for? Destroying our country? No.
One more talking point that I want to get into some really fun questions at the last part of the interview. I know you weren't surprised, but it enraged me anyways, because if there ever was a man that I saw, I adore Dr. King. I know there were some skeletons, they talked about some, but there's skeletons with most people. But here's the thing. John Lewis was almost above it all. A beautiful human being. And this bastard does that Axial. I want to give the guy credit, the interviewer, Jonathan Swan.
Yeah.
And he says to him, he didn't let him off the hook. And you saw it, I'm sure you saw it. Feelings aside, personal feelings. All he could talk about was, he didn't come to my inauguration. Shut up. Who cares? It was the worst inauguration I ever said. We knew from that day when Sean Spicer, who was the worst Dancing with the Stars I ever saw, okay, that schmuck who was hiding in the bushes, when he came there like the next day and said, and I was in the military, but I was a government contractor for, of all places, Department of Homeland Security, that the inauguration crowd was larger. I don't care what angle you took it from, it was not. You want to talk about turning fair, but Spicer brought that out. Okay, from that day forward, I said this is going to be the most insane I've ever seen. But he couldn't even give him, he said something to the effect, I'm going to paraphrase, well, there were others, minimizing John Lewis. I mean, I know it's in a long line of things that he's done, and you were around him, so I know it's probably not completely shocking to you. But did you shake your head, or you're like more of?
Oh, of course. Listen, just because it isn't surprising doesn't mean it isn't shocking. Doesn't mean it's not despicable, and doesn't mean that we should get used to it. And that's the problem. And I think this is a problem with the way the media frame these things. I hear this all the time. Well, the fact that he's a racist, the fact that he's a misogynist, the fact that he lies all the time, it's just baked into the cake. Why? No, it should not be. Just because you've done something 10,000 times doesn't mean it's okay the next time you do it.
Yes.
So people should be shocked. It shouldn't be like, oh, well, yeah, he's petty and John Lewis didn't go to, so what? No, John Lewis is a hero.
Yes.
Who has stature greater than, I can't think of any living American who has as much of a right to be lionized as John Lewis. So I mean, I just think it's obscene that somebody like Donald even is allowed to be asked a question about John Lewis.
I get it.
So, you know, I don't want people to confuse my lack of being surprised because I know this guy for complacency about it. No, I'm horrified, even if it's not surprising.
You know, you saw my review that I blamed your family for the death of your father.
Yep.
I stand by
Me
it.
too.
I stand it right, and I stand by it. I didn't just say it to make you feel good. I read your book, and that's what I took away from it.
Yep.
Okay, yes, he had a demon that he had alcohol. He was an alcoholic, but they did nothing. From your book, they did nothing. I don't care what Donald says, because you bet a horse on past performances. At least if you go to the track, you know anything about it, you bet that horse. And, well, he did this at Monticello, and he did this at Belmont. Okay, we know what he runs on this third, and he runs on that, or blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
He showed us who he was with John McCain, Senator McCain. He showed us with the Central Park Five early on. Mm-hmm. So when I said that I blamed your family for it, I do. It's interesting how we are as human beings, though, because you are somebody that has so much empathy. You put yourself out there. Debbie said this before last night when we were talking at dinner. She said every interview clip that she sees, because you know you're everywhere, even if it's a little snippet. No, it's a good thing. You're putting a good message.
It's weird though. No, it's weird. It's just weird.
I know. I bet it is. You're consistent. You remind me of my Uncle Stan, who was in the music business. He worked for Sinatra, and he told. I'm not saying you're telling stories, but you're telling your story. Mm-hmm. Every time he told a particular story about Frank Sinatra to whomever it was the same thing. But you always told him that I always use that as a barometer. He was telling the truth, because when Donald tells you a story, remember on 9/11, on that fateful day, he saw a group of Muslims doing it, and then it became a few, and then it became whatever. He's always changed. How about the airplane? The other day, the airplane. It was a plane of people. Then it was a few people, and then it was I heard people say, and you know, so it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that the side of you that has empathy, the side of you, the whole side of you that is the God-given sense that you have, that you're willing to use your platform to speak out. And I'm not going to ask you this question because I don't want to put this out there, but just because of what I did in intelligence over my years, knowing how Donald is, I don't want to make the assumption, but I would think sometimes things come at a cost, and I don't want to ask you anything about that or put anything out because it's nobody's business. I don't know if you can read between the lines what I'm saying, but I've worked in that world and I know what people are capable of doing. Okay, but I admire you for it, and like I said, the viewers, my Ringside Report team, they all admire you. My followers, I see your followers on Twitter. I appreciate your tweets. I appreciate people like you that use your platform. Again, when Robert De Niro said F Trump, he was the greatest actor that ever lived, and then he's a mutt, a dog. And you know what? I love him. I'm half Italian, but I don't understand because Donald doesn't respect Italians. He wants to be, I used to call him, his gangster name was Orange Donnie because that's who he wanted. You know, I know he did deals with them. He was in New York. He had to do deals with them.
Of course.
You know, they owned, okay, not to sidestep. What I want to do in the last part of our interview is have complete fun. I'm not saying we didn't have some fun, but this is a 180 about you, some random questions.
Okay.
Whatever comes off the top of your head is the right answer. There's no right or wrong answer. And you can't call me back and say, hey, I meant to say this. You ready?
I'm ready.
Your favorite genre of movies?
Ooh, dramas.
Okay.
But I love everything. So that's really hard because like Alien, for example, is one of my favorite movies.
We love it.
Yep.
Favorite movie?
Ooh, I was talking to a friend of mine about this the other day. That's hard because there's so many. So again, Alien, I can't pick one. Do I have to pick one?
Pick two. So we know stuff that you like.
Oh my gosh. Lawrence of Arabia and Alien.
Okay, Peter O'Toole, great movie. Favorite musical band?
The Who.
The Who, I love The Who. Okay, favorite song by The Who?
That's really tough. It would have to be something from Quadrophenia.
I figured that.
The entire album of Quadrophenia, because it's like all, it's like one big song.
We're gonna date ourselves, but if your age is correct, I'm not gonna put it out there, but it's on the internet. They Wikipedia. It says how old you. We're in the same.
Yeah, I'm 55.
Okay, and I'm 52. So
So
we're
the first thing I ever lit, my dad had 2 8-track tapes.
Oh,
one was Jesus Christ Superstar,
okay.
and one was Tommy.
Tommy, okay.
The Who version of Tommy.
Okay, who was the acid queen in Tommy?
Tina Turner.
There you go. There you go. And Elton John was who?
He was, oh gosh.
Wasn't he the Pinball Wizard, I think?
Yes, of course.
I believe he had the platform.
Platforms, yep.
Okay. Favorite concert you've ever been to?
The Who, Quadrophenia.
Okay. Now, not a band. Favorite male singer?
Oh, male singer. Can we get back to it?
Okay. Favorite female singer?
It's a tie. Ella Fitzgerald, Tori Amos.
Boy,
I know.
Well, Frank loved, I don't know if you ever saw, I collect Sinatra stuff. It's upstairs in my music room. 67 special was Lady Ella and Frank, and he loved Lady Ella. I mean,
oh man,
Lady Ella. One day we meet, lunch is on me or dinner, Debbie and I. I'll tell you a good Ella Fitzgerald story about my Uncle Stan and Ella, because he was good friends. He worked in the Brill Building in New York City, and he owned a publishing company. He was friends with Bobby Darin and Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, all of them. He knew them all. Do you have a favorite song?
I've thought about this a lot. I don't, because there's so many billions of songs. I have songs, no matter what mood I'm in, I will listen to them. Like one of them is You Said Something by PJ Harvey. One of them is Tangled Up in Blue by Bob Dylan, even though I'm not really a Bob Dylan fan. So it's like Ella Fitzgerald's version of The Lady is a Tramp. I will listen to it no matter where I am or what I'm doing or how I feel.
Okay. And I was going to put you on the spot, but I'm looking in your background, and you might not have done it, but if you did, it would have been a world exclusive. You always have a guitar in your background in a lot of these shots.
Yeah.
Is it for show or you play?
It's over there. No. I play. I just don't. I don't play particularly well, and I've never played for anybody but myself. So I have a little performance anxiety, but I love it. I absolutely.
I was gonna put you on the spot, and I didn't know which way we were going. But that's not that. Well, okay. But you see, I paid attention to you.
You do. You do.
Georgia looked at intel. Okay. Favorite car?
Actually, I still have the very last Saab 9.3 convertible. It's a 6-speed.
Okay.
That was my favorite car until my new, and I'm not like a car person, but I have an Audi A7, which is like the most amazing friggin', it's like, I call it my little rocket ship.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Does it park itself?
No, I like to do things like that myself, but actually my Saab, just because I love driving, I love manual transmissions and convertibles.
Okay. Favorite noise or sound?
My daughter's laughter.
Okay. Least favorite noise or sound?
Donald's voice. Come on. Low-hanging fruit.
Okay. Favorite food?
Pasta.
I gotta ask because I'm half Italian. What pasta?
I'm partial to penne and capellini.
Okay. I don't know if you played the lottery. Deb, whenever you go to the gas station, because we want to get out of Indiana, I'm retired. Debbie's still working, so I follow Debbie around. But she's like, buy a lottery ticket. I'm like, we never win in this particular gas station up the street. We don't even hit one number. I think she hit $3 the other day. She was thrilled. But if you hit the lottery tomorrow, and I mean the big one, not like I'm talking about the big one.
Yep.
What would you do? What would be the first act that you would do?
The first thing I would do, honestly, is give as much money as possible to candidates in swing districts and swing states. Okay. And I honestly, I can't think of anything else right now, because if that happens, then we can think about having good things again.
Okay. Now, before we went on the air, I don't know if you saw this. Debbie said, hey, did you know this is a breaking story? I think, and I want to misquote, but I think Bloomberg gave $100 million or something in Florida. Is that?
Yep.
Did you hear that story?
Yep.
Go Mikey. Okay, put money where
Well,
your mouth is.
one, it's about time, and two,
Yeah,
that's the right state to do it in.
yeah, I agree.
Oh,
Okay,
by the way, though, when I heard that, I had to Google his net worth.
billions.
57 billion, 600 million. So now I mean, really?
Well, let's be honest, and I think he might have said that in his campaign that lasted 20 minutes. But um, Donald's tax cut helped him. You know, it
Yeah,
helped him.
so
So
I
he
think
should
he could
give
afford a little bit.
some of that money away. He
He
should.
could have, yeah.
He could afford it. You knew it. I'm going to get back to the fun questions, but you knew when Donald said it was BS that his tax plan was going to hurt him.
Yeah.
Like they say right there, it hurt him.
Yeah.
What? Okay. Favorite vacation destination when we don't have COVID?
The Caribbean.
Okay. If you could meet one person, Mary, from any time in history, who would you like to meet, and what would your first question be for him?
Okay, first of all, male singer Pete Townsend, so I don't forget.
Okay. Folks, Pete Townsend from the.
Gosh, that is very difficult question. You know what? I think Toni Morrison.
Okay, the author. Okay.
And my question would be, I don't know. It wouldn't be a simple, just her writing is just so extraordinary and evocative. And
what was the book didn't she write When the Cage Birds?
No, that's Maya Angelou.
Okay.
No, Tori Amos, that's the singer. Sorry, Toni Morrison is Beloved,
Beloved, right.
Louis Di.
She didn't do Wait and Exhale, did she? Did she write that? No.
I'm sorry?
Did she do Wait and Exhale? I can't remember if she wrote it.
No, that was Terry McMillan.
Okay.
You know what? I would just sit there and listen to whatever she had to say. I wouldn't have to ask her a question.
Okay. Mary, with everything that we've talked about, if you had to sum yourself up in a sentence or two as a human being, I mean, I've watched you. I always say the eyes say a lot. You know, I think I probably told you in the email, you know, I'm long-winded emails. You watch Bill Barr, he does a lot of this. He looks over here, he looks over there. That says a lot. I'm a big person on eye contact. If you're telling the truth, you can look at that person right now. There are some people that don't. Even Donald does a lot of over here, over there, look above you, look, you know, not really in the eye. But if you had to sum yourself up as a human being, what would you say?
I care deeply about the well-being of other people, even if I don't, you know, even if they aren't closely associated with me. And I believe that we're all better off if we just care how other people do and how other people succeed.
Okay.
And that, you know, there are things that just aren't limited resources, and respect and love and kindness are those kinds of things. And I don't know, like, what's the point otherwise?
Okay. Well, you exemplify my saying. I got two more questions, but I always end my shows with, and it's my saying, quote, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. And it's so easy. There's no dollar amount. I don't care if it's just saying hello to somebody, good morning, holding a door, a smile. It's the simplest things that if everybody in the world, and maybe I know, I mean, no matter who wins the election, you're still going to have people that are going to be the way that they are.
Right.
You know, but if people would take just 0.1 and a little bit more kindness, the world could be, and it's not a hippy dippy,
No.
I'm tripping on acid idea. It's really that simple.
But this is one of the things that makes me crazy. If anybody were to speak at one of Donald's COVID rallies and said, you know, it's really important that we just be kind to each other, they would like laugh at you.
Yeah.
Like, since when did kindness become some kind of like new agey thing that is only for wimps? I mean, seriously? So, and that's the other thing I see, like in the age of COVID and masks and social distancing, it's harder. like, I'll be in a store and uh, smile at some, but they can't see me and I forget that I'm wearing sunglasses, I'm wearing masks. So we can't, communicate in the same ways. And I think it is kind of making it harder
Right.
to be in the moment, kind and stuff like that. But I agree with you. It takes nothing.
Thanks, nothing. And you know what? I got two more questions for you before we close out, but I want to hit a talking point because you just jarred it in me, where you said if they would show kindness at one of his, I call him Hitler, Adolf Hitler rallies. That's all I can say.
Oh, yeah, they are.
But Debbie and I watch a lot of this, and then when we can't take it anymore, we turn on HGTV and watch House Hunters, and that takes us out of Indiana. We watch people in other states looking at houses and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we'll move there. But I said, show kindness. The first lady, be best, and mommy, the second lady. How come they didn't have press conference? Their mothers, whether they want the job or not. Okay, mommy's supposed to be religious, and the other one is a mother, whether we want to say or not. She did give birth, I believe. So she gave birth. Why couldn't they have press conferences that would comfort the mothers out there and say, hey, I'm not saying that you put all your personal business out there. I understand your security and I understand the privacy. They're in the way. I get that. But you could still refer to something, this whole going back to school. If it's public knowledge where presidents' kids go. We knew where the Obama kids went. We knew where the Bush daughters went. We knew where the Clinton went. It's public knowledge. So it's not like they don't have Secret Service with them or we're jeopardizing their security. So let's put that out there first, folks, because I worked in D.C. I know how this goes. But you want kids to go back to school, but you don't say nothing about your kids. Now, I know the Pence's kids are older. She just wrote a book to tell us how great her parents are, which, whatever. Okay, sure.
No, it was fiction.
Yeah, it was fiction. Yeah, exactly. It was fiction. But you could use, he's going back to school or, talking about masks or what they do on a daily thing. Like you said, that's an act of kindness. Though I think it's their job to do that. Because remember, his thing, I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to panic people, which all he does is panic people. But, okay, that tied into your kind. I absolutely agree with you. We're 100% the same wavelength. Second to last question. You've done so many interviews. Well, I watched a lot of your clips and enjoyed them. Is there one question that I didn't ask you, Chris didn't ask you, Jane Fonda didn't ask you, Ari didn't ask you, Joy Reid, Rachel, anybody, because you've done so many things, and you're going to be doing, I'm sure, more between here and the election. Is there one question that you said to yourself, I wish the guys, or the ladies or the gentlemen of the press would ask me this question? And if so, what's the answer?
There was a time when I would have had an answer for you, especially at the beginning when it seemed like all anybody cared about were the stupid SATs, which made me crazy, or his personal comment about me, which to me were the two least important things in the entire book. And now what's been really gratifying is that there has been a shift since the, or most noticeably since the convention, that people really are starting to ask different, more substantive questions. So I can't think, and the other thing that's really nice is every interview now is quite different from all of the other, like you've asked me questions nobody else has asked. Same thing happened in an interview I had this morning with Brian Stelter. So it's really, so like people are now focusing on things that maybe are more of interest to them. And like you asked about my dad in a way other people haven't before. So I'm beginning to feel like, and also people are starting to ask me questions that have nothing to do with the book or nothing to do with Donald.
It's run out because, it was a fair question. I thought of the question. I mean, anybody's going to ask you, why didn't you come forward? They did that to Ambassador Bull. It's a fair question. But after it's been asked 1,000 times, how many different ways are you going to tell it? And you don't tell it a different way. You said, and whether they have the right to say, oh, well, I don't like that she didn't do it, she's trying to, they're going to believe what the hell they want to believe.
Of course.
You know what? The one thing that you said about that question, and the reason why, again, I didn't answer is because I honestly believe in my heart, if I didn't, I wouldn't say it, because that's not me. It wouldn't have made a bit of difference to his base, not one single freaking bit. And I do want to, before I ask you the final question, I do want to go back to something you said, very important, because you made a point. The Electoral College. It is time that it's vote for vote. If the Republican wins by 50 votes, he won the election. If the Democrat won by 3 votes, he or she won the election.
Right.
This whole electoral college is it's ridiculous. It's
Yep.
ridiculous. You know, there's two things that I would like to see, honestly, and it affects Republicans and Democrats and independents, even though they're a smaller minority in all of the group, is I'm looking for term limits because I don't want to see Mitch McConnell stay in power for 30 years. And that's also fair on the Democratic side. I want new blood because as we, in my opinion, as we move along in a society, views change. That's why when they hit Joe Biden up about something he did 30, 40 years, that's why when Harris hit him up in the thing and now they could talk about it, I tell people, she was right to say what she felt. If that was the truth, yeah, it was an aha moment and it is politics, but the truth of the matter is, look at how Biden handled it.
Right.
You could see in his eyes, Mary, you're a doctor, you deal with this stuff. You could see it affected him. He didn't come back like Donald would have and said, that's nasty. You could see it hurt him. It hurt him.
Yeah.
He came, people can change. Well, not Donald.
And he still chose her to be.
He still chose her, which shows that he rose above it. I'm not going to lie to you. I couldn't elbow Mike Pence. I could elbow him, but it wouldn't be an elbow like this. I understand it's great optics. I get it. It's great optics. I understand optics.
Yep.
Donald doesn't understand optics. He couldn't do optics if it bit him in his ass. But, you know, you were absolutely right what you said earlier. Electoral college, it's got to go bye-bye.
And by the way, term limits for Supreme Court justices also.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be. You know, it's crazy to me. I've met people I've known people that have done things that on the other side of the law. And they loved when he put in conservative judges. And I said, do you realize what you've done? I won't out anybody, but they were attached to some families, if you know what I mean. I'm like, you want those type of judges? Those are the judges that I don't even understand your logic here. Not that I'm saying what you're doing is right. I'm not condoning it, but these are the judges you want.
But that's a problem. The system as it's currently, it's corrupt, it's un-American, it's undemocratic. It benefits Republicans, so they're not going to do anything about it.
No, they're not. And Brett Kavanaugh should never. How Susan Collins can look herself in the face. And they make me
He's just as bad. Come on.
He's horrible. You know, and Jeff Flake now has a conscience. And Paul Ryan has a conscience. And Rand Paul.
But this is what we cannot be, and then we should probably finish, but just really quickly, this is why we should not ever count on never Donald people. George W. Bush endorsed Susan Collins.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas people like the Lincoln Project, they are actively trying to kick out every single Senate Republican.
Right.
That is fine with me.
Okay, and I agree. Last question. What is the saying, if you have one, that you live your life by? I'm
sorry, say that again?
If you have a saying, if you have
okay.
saying that you live your life by. If you don't, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I do. It's never live your life comparatively.
Okay.
Because, you know, there's always somebody better off. There's always somebody worse off. You know, we have to judge our successes and failures in the context of our lives as we live them.
Okay.
And I just think it makes it easier to be kinder to other people and to ourselves if we're not always, you know, it's like for me, I play tennis. I'm only ever competing against myself.
Okay.
You know, so yeah, that's my main one. Never live your life comparatively.
Okay. Let me do this one more time, folks. The book. Can you see it? Can you see it in your shot there? Right? You see it cover?
Yeah.
Okay. Too Much and Never Enough by Mary L. Trump. If you go on my YouTube channel, you'll see the very no punches pulled review that I did on. I gave it 5 stars. Fantastic book. Both Debbie and I read it. And again, Mary, I appreciate your time. We've been going back and forth. I know your schedule's busy. You know, you did 2 hours with me. It seems like, you know, you do 2 more hours. But I appreciate your time. Again, like I said, from the heart, you're making a difference. You really are. And I think I could say this, that when whatever happens in the election, we all hope that Joe Biden, we're voting for Joe Biden.
Yep.
Kamala Harris, we're voting, we're getting out there, please vote. But regardless of what happens, I hate to think the other, but I know that you're still going to use your platform to speak out. And I respect you for that. And a lot of people respect you for that. So if you ever get in a moment where you think, am I making a difference? You are. You know, one voice can't change everything, but many voices together has an opportunity to change many things.
Right. And that's, we all got to stick together and keep doing what we're doing and fight until the end. And, we'll do everything in our power to make sure we get there.
Okay.
So this has been really fun for me because it's not always fun for me. So I appreciate it. And it was nice and relaxed and great questions.
Thank you.
And thank you for the time. Thanks to everybody who listens and supports the book and me. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing as long as people want me to do it.
Okay. Before I let you log off, let me do my save because this is my first venture with Zoom. I'm used to doing it first. So let me get it because if I hit when I hit stop record, I can't say nothing else. And I put extra. So hey, folks, as I always close out the show, every act of kindness is a little love we leave behind. As we did in the military. Bad, Brad, out. Take care, Mary. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brad. Take care.
Bye.
Stay safe.